Let's continue with figuring out how to use exposure sheets and animation drawings for limited animation of Scooby and Shaggy. So we're going to start with, well, I should say we're continuing with Shaggy animation. Now here's the exposure sheet, which I have replaced with a different Warner Brothers exposure sheet because the columns for writing the drawing numbers are wider. And this one has 8 columns. Back in the days of cell animation, it would stop at 6, which I'll get into that later. Anyway, I do have some X sheets where this column is wider than this so that you can don't have to write so scrunched up. Where we left off, we have Shaggy drawing number 1. We have an X here because that's where the head separations are going to occur. We have M1 for mouth closed 1 here at the top of the scene. A1 for his arm down in the start position. And then Scooby and Scooby's eyes so that we can blink them. So here's Shaggy. Here's the separated arm. And I'll turn on the light so you can see a little bit better. So here you can see his arm is separate level. We put a blue line here under the sleeve and then here on his body. And we write REG, that means registration, register. We register the arm to this mark here and this one. When Ink and Paint gets the Xerox cell of this, they're only going to paint this flesh color up to this line. When they get the Xerox cell of Shaggy, it's not going to have his arm on it. It's just going to stop at the sleeve here and his shirt coming down here. So that's our starting position is Shaggy 1. And the mouth that is closed for an A mouth is what's on first and who's on second. So here's what the setup looks like. Separate mouth, separate arm, head and body combined into one. Now, for him to speak, we use separate mouths. And for him to speak will be mouth 2 is B mouth, mouth 3 is C, and mouth 4 is D. And that's so that he can, on our sheets, we look and see the mouth position is A, C, D, in between to C, B, stay closed, and then pop to F for Scoob, close on A. So, actually we don't even need this in between, we can just go right down to that mouth. You bring a line down like this, that means hold this drawing all the way down to the C. On here, on our sheet, we have go from M1 to M3, pops open to 3, which is C mouth, 4, which is the D mouth, that's an M. It stays open, and then it closes down to the C. Then the 2 is the B mouth. He's going to put his head up because we want to accent, right? So I've chosen to start moving here. Head 3, head 5, head 7, head 9. At the point where his head moves, we take off the mouth of M2. Draw a line down. We're going to use head 3, 5, 7 for his head to pop up and then come down to 9. That's the in-between. Back to Shaggy 1 with that head and arm. I mean that M1 mouth, because it's closed, and the arm is still down. So I've shown you the mouths. Let's take a look at the heads as he bobs his head up. When he starts to move his head, we then make a drawing of just his body, without the head, and that's basically just a tracing of the body. And you might do this, and then painters know to just paint up to here and only here on the sleeve. And then we start exposing the heads. Head 3 is moving slightly up. 5 is more up. We change the mouths as we go. 7 is all the way up. And then he closed the mouth on number 9 because he's coming down. And as he comes down, head 9, we go back to Shaggy 1, which is our first drawing, along with that arm and mouth closed. So it's going to go from that back to this one. And that's his head going down. It's got a separate mouth and a separate arm. And that's what we have on the sheet here. The mouth here is, and that's his head and body. And his arm we just held all the way down. Now he's going to turn his head because he's saying, look over there. So let's look at the drawings that we made for that. And to do that, we start with head 11. Now we're in betweening him turning his head, and he's going to blink on the head turn. So here he is turning, close eyes. This is head 13. Continue the turn, 15. And that's the completed turn, and now his eyes are all the way open. As he was turning his head, his arm is raising up. And you look at our sheets, there's his arm going up, 13, 15, 17, and 19, and coming down to settle on 21. So here's 13. And next drawing is 15, 17, and 19. And how they work is like this. There's 13, starts to raise up, 15, continue up. So this is slowing out of the held arm. Going up, continue up. And this is an overshoot drawing here as it goes up like that. And then it's going to settle back. You see the difference is out and back. the arm moved back just a little bit this way. I'm going to add some elbow point on there. And as he turned his head, there's no mouth on there because we separated the mouths out so that he could speak his line. Look over there. And what we do is we do all the drawings of the mouths, and then it's just a matter of exposing them. So we start with 17, and you just go through your drawings of mouths. There's 17, 18 is a B mouth, 19 is a C mouth, that's not right, 20 would be, 20 is the D mouth, 21 is E, 22 is F, 23 is G, and 24 is H. When we look at exposure sheets, you see these mouths exposed starting here on 17. So we use 22 for an F mouth, 23 for a G mouth, 21 for E, 20 is B, 19 is D, 21 E. We probably don't need an in-between there. We're going to take that one out. We just hold the E mouth there, and then it just closes to an A mouth at the end. Then we draw a line down here to show that that mouth is held all the way. This head is held all the way. And so we've now animated all of Shaggy for the scene by separating out everything. Now, if we didn't do the separation, we'd have to trace back Shaggy drawings for all of this dialogue, head turning, and arm going up. Let's see, this M1, H11 was an in-between, so M1 goes to here, and then we take it off, hold that to here. The reason we put X's here is because that's a blank cell. The reason you have a blank cell is because you're using 6 levels. The intensity of the paint is such that if you have 6 layers of cells, color key will figure out, not color key, ink and paint will figure out how bright each color should be under 6 cells in order to make it look normal. So they know that if there's 6 cells, there's a certain set of colors for Shaggy to be painted. If there are only 2 or 3 cells, his colors would be a little bit different because there's only 2 or 3 cells cutting down on the light coming through the cells. Each cell cuts off a certain amount of light, and there are special formulas in ink and paint that figure this out. So what we do to compensate for not having so many cells all the time with some character action is just we put a blank cell. And wherever we don't carry through with a cell with paint on it, we put a blank. And that compensates for not having something there. So anyway, that is how you do traditional cell animation using X sheets. Separation of body parts, heads, arms, mouths, to make a scene work. So in the next one, we'll go over how to do the separation of eyes for Scooby to blink. And I did have the blink here, but for some reason I moved it down here. I may move it back up. You can move it wherever you like. It might be better up here because it doesn't interfere too much or take away or distract too much from something else that's going on. So anyway, keep drawing, keep animating, and keep having fun.